These are Stirling city walls, the best preserved in Scotland. Within them, the town council, led by burgesses, controlled the sale of food and drink. Now they had their own tradition, a unique pie with a backwards 4 on it that they gave to their wives to prove that they'd attended the meeting. The bulk of the wealth comes from the sale of cattle. 100 million head of cattle travel across Stirling Bridge, through Stirling streets, down south to the ever-hungry markets. Farming is still vitally important to Stirling's economy and its food and drink story. But it was once surrounded by an enormous bog, perhaps one of the biggest in Europe. Clearing of the bog in the 18th century created rich, fertile soil. So fertile was that soil that the sleepy village of Kippen was once home to the world's largest grapevine. Now, while that grapevine is gone, it still survives in memories and cuttings in greenhouses.
Well, in 1891, Duncan Buchanan, who had been a gardener at Culzean Castle, came here and leased a piece of land with a view to building a vinery. He had a piece of land across the road as well as this one here and set up the glass houses. Originally they planted a French vine called Gros Coleman, which was quite a fast growing vine, and as well as some others like Black Hamburg. But the one particular vine of the Gros Coleman batch really took off, and it was just a fluke really, because they'd all been treated the same, and it grew into the largest vine in the world. The Gros Coleman vine extended to about 300 feet, which was through a variety of glass houses, and in a good year they would get about 3,000 bunches of grapes, which is an amazing amount. The vinery was in existence for about 73 years, and it's been estimated that it was possibly about 100,000 bunches of grapes in that time. It employed quite a number of people in the village, some seasonally, because there was a lot of work to do keeping the vine fruiting well. It was quite intensive work. The bunches of grapes had to be thinned by hand, and they used long, thin scissors specifically for the purpose. They weren't supposed to touch the grapes at all with their fingers. They had roughly 20,000 visitors a year from all over and coming from abroad as well. In the village, in various conservatories and old houses, there are examples of the vine still growing, as well as in quite a few greenhouses, so it lives on, not just in this one. As a child, I remember the grapes were lovely, large, sweet ones, and I think they managed to produce those because of the heating that was in the greenhouse. And I think if it had been kept going, if it had been viable, it would have been a great tourist attraction now.
In recent years, there's been a growing trend of reconnecting people with land, food and nature, and small-scale farms and community gardens are springing up across the borough.
Our bigger vision for the farm is to be a sustainable food future. We want to be a model for sustainable farming. And the first way that we're doing that is through a CSA, which is a community supported agriculture model. What that means is that people become members of the farm. They sign up for the whole season and they receive a share of the harvest throughout the season. So sometimes in the spring they'll get slightly less, in the summer they'll get slightly more. The nice thing about the CSA model is that people can be reconnected with the farm, so they get a sense of how the food is grown, and it's grown by us, and they can see exactly how we grow, so we're a low input system, we don't use pesticides or herbicides. We try to support biodiversity here as much as we can, so we have 5-metre windbreaks all around our site which have different native species of trees and shrubs. It will serve as a windbreak for us but also serve for biodiversity. We use crop rotation rather than herbicides or pesticides, which means that we grow in different blocks and we change which plants are grown there each year. We build up fertility in the soil by adding green manures to that rotation. We don't take all of our weeds away, we leave some things for the birds. Last year we left all of our sunflowers that were eaten up by the birds. They had a feast on the seeds there. We're really passionate here about reconnecting people back to the land and to show them where the food comes from. Our 3 main priorities here are the land workers, the community and the environment. We want to see people to really value land work and where the food comes from. The farm used to be a dairy for hundreds of years. In the 90s it was converted to residential housing, and I think during the time that it was a dairy there would have been a small vegetable garden here that just would have fed the house. But what our vision is to grow still local but you know, hyper local. We want to feed Balfron and Bucclivie and the local villages.
Next time, join us as we uncover one of the Royal Borough's oldest objects.